and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
So today I'll be filming my top 10 college football coaches going into the 2026 season, part 2. So starting with number 6, I've got Kalen DeBoer from Alabama. And even though I've got DeBoer ahead of Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame, who I've got at 7, I would actually rather have Freeman coaching my team than DeBoer. So DeBoer has been a Power 4 head coach the exact same amount of time that Freeman has been a head coach. In the 2 years that DeBoer was at Washington, he had better teams than Freeman did, even though he had less talent. But Freeman has grown as a coach since his first 2 years. But the only time he's had a better team than DeBoer has was in 2024. Now, who was better between 2025 Alabama and 2025 Notre Dame is debatable, though. But Freeman now, I would say, is a better game time coach than Kalen DeBoer is. And I don't think DeBoer takes the line of scrimmage seriously enough. And he just barely got off my top 10 most likely coaches to get fired list. He'd be number 11 on my list. I don't think he's ever winning a national championship at Alabama, and I'm doubtful that he'll ever win an SEC championship, even though he did win the Pac-12 championship. And even though I've got DeBoer ahead of Kyle Whittingham, Michigan was interested in DeBoer after they fired Sharon Moore. But if I was a Michigan fan, which I'm not, I would actually be glad that they hired Whittingham and not DeBoer. I just have DeBoer ahead of Whittingham because DeBoer does have 2 playoff appearances and wins, and Whittingham doesn't have any. But Kalen DeBoer was Pac-12 Coach of the Year both years at Washington. And in 2023, he was National Coach of the Year. And he has been recruiting at Alabama close to as well as Nick Saban did. This year, he had the number 5 ranked recruiting class. He got commitments from 11 4-star players and 3 5-star players. He's been a head coach for 11 years, and his record is 124 and 20, and his winning percentage is 86.1%. I'd say his best win was his 2023 playoff win over Texas, but he's already coached 5 first-round picks. And he always has some good wide receivers. And I do think he's one of the best there is at developing quarterbacks. Marcus Freeman is at 43 and 11 in 4 years. His winning percentage is at 79.6%. He just got Notre Dame their best recruiting class in history that ranks 2nd in the country. He got commitments from 4 5-star and 16 4-star players, and he's had a top 12 recruiting class there every year. And Freeman is a coach that I think is going to win a national championship at some point. His teams are always very physical at the line of scrimmage, which has been the Notre Dame way for a very long time, and he always has a great running back room. And the defense wasn't that good in his first year, but these past 3 years it's been elite. And the tight end play under him has always been pretty good. But what's been better under him compared to what it was under Brian Kelly is the wide receiver play has been slowly improving. And the quarterback play this past year with CJ Carr that was better than it ever was under Brian Kelly, and Freeman, even though he's building his teams mostly off of recruiting, he has done a good job of plugging holes in the transfer portal. Marcus Freeman's at three best wins in his coaching career were the three playoff wins in 2024 against Indiana, Georgia, and Penn State. And it's debatable which one was the best of those wins, but I would say it was the Georgia win. Eight is Kyle Whittingham from Michigan. So I think this is the best hire in college football this year. I was surprised by the hire, though, because I thought Whittingham was just going to retire because he's been so loyal to Utah for so many years. But Michigan offered him a 5 year, 8.2 million a year contract, and that's nearly 1.3 million more per year than he's been making it at Utah. And I think that he is a huge upgrade over Sharon Moore. Moore was a good assistant coach, but not a very good head coach. And Michigan in the last few years under Harbaugh had a really good culture going on. But Sharon Moore, even though he had helped create that culture, when he became the head coach, he let it fall apart. And Kyle Whittingham is big on having a good culture. He had that at Utah for so many years, where the players love playing for him, and they love playing together as a team and aren't just worried about personal statistics and how much money they're going to make. I think Whittingham is the one to bring that good culture back to Michigan. And Michigan has always been very much a line of scrimmage team that plays good defense and loves to run the football and chew up clock. And that's Kyle Whittingham's game. He's been one of the best defensive minds in college football for a long time, and his teams are always physical at the line of scrimmage. And his record in 21 years at Utah is 176 and 88, and his winning percentage is 66.7%. He took them to 17 bowl games. In the first 6 years that he was Utah's head coach, they were in the Mountain West Conference. And in 2008, he got them a 13-0 record and a Sugar Bowl win over Alabama. That and his two Pac-12 championship wins, I would say, are his best wins of his coaching career, but he was Pac-12 Coach of the Year at two times that Utah was in the Pac-12 those 13 years in 2019 and 2021. And he's done all this with not very good recruiting, mainly just with three-star players. And I've always wondered what Kyle Whittingham could do at a program like Michigan where he'll be able to recruit inside the top 20 every year. I think he's going to win a national championship in the next 5 years. But the reality when it comes to winning a national championship has changed after what Signetti did. Because it turns out if the coaching is good enough, you don't have to have a bunch of 4 and 5 star players to win one, although it does make it easier. But if it's possible for Indiana to win a national championship, it's possible for any Power Four program to do it. And another good thing about being a good head coach is putting together a good staff. And Whittingham's put together an elite staff at Michigan. He's bringing his offensive coordinator from Utah with him, Jason back, and I think he's the one to turn around Michigan's offense. He turned around Utah's offense. The 2 years before he that came to Utah when Cameron Rising was hurt and the quarterback situation was a mess. Utah's offense was like it's been under Sharon Moore, except for the offensive line. They were terrible. But this past year, with him calling the plays, Utah had the sixth ranked scoring offense, and Devin Dampier had a great year. And I think Beck and Whittingham have a much better chance of being able to get that five-star rating out of Bryce Underwood than Sharon Moore would have. And he also hired BYU's defensive coordinator, Jay Hill, who had a great uh, 2 seasons with BYU. I think he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country right now. I think this is going to be a top five coaching staff in the country. Nine is that Steve Sarkeesian from Texas. So Sarkeesian's record as a head coach is at 93 and 55, and winning percentage is only 62.8% because it's only been these past 3 years that he's actually been a great head coach. But in those 3 years, he's 35 and 8. So he's been a college head coach for 11 and part of another year because he got fired from USC in the middle of a season. But I still think he's one of the best play callers in the country, and he was a great offensive coordinator for Alabama for 2 seasons, and one of those seasons he won the award for being the best assistant coach in the country. And he was Big 12 Coach of the Year in Texas's final season in the conference. And he has won a conference championship and has 2 playoff wins. But I think the best team that he's ever beaten was Alabama in 2023. But I guess you would say his biggest win was against Arizona State in 2024. He is one of the best recruiters in the country. They've had a top 10 recruiting class every year under him. And in 2025, he got Texas their best recruiting class in school history that ranked number 1 in the country. He got commitments from 5 5-star and 13 4-star players. And while he has built his teams mostly off of recruiting, he's done a very good job at plugging holes through the transfer portal. He got them the 8th ranked transfer portal group in the country this year. And while I do think Sarkeesian is going to win a national championship at some point at Texas, he is going to have to improve his coaching some more to do that because these past 2 years, Texas has had the talent to beat Georgia, and they lost all 3 meetings to Georgia because he got out coached by Kirby Smart. And 2 of those 3 meetings, it was in an extreme way. But his offenses have usually been a very explosive and balanced attack. But this past season, he had the same problem that Kalen DeBoer had at Alabama, which was no run game. And it wasn't because they didn't have good running backs. His teams have always had a lot of depth at the running back and the wide receiver positions. It was because it took what was a young offensive line a long time to play well. And at the end of the year, when they finally did play well, it was too late. And defensively, his teams these past 3 years have always had an elite front seven, but 2 of the past 3 years, the secondary has been a problem for his teams. And I've got Mario Cristobal from Miami. So he's been a head coach for 13 years and is 97 and 79. His winning percentage is only 55.1%. That's because his first 6 years was at FIU, where he only went 27 and 47. But he was hired to bring Miami back to national title contention, and he's done that. But it wasn't done very quickly. It was a slow improvement. In 2022, when they went 5-7 in his first year at Miami, they were way below expectations. And then in 2023, while they were a little better at 7-6, it was still a disappointing season for them. And then a big improvement in 2024 at going 10-3, but they still didn't get any big wins. But then in 2025, this was Miami's best team since the last time they won the national championship in 2001. And I would say Cristobal's biggest win in his coaching career was the semifinal win over Ole Miss. But the three playoff wins that he got in 2025 were all bigger wins than any wins that Miami's gotten in the 24 years before that. So Mario Cristobal has always been one of the best recruiters in the country, going back to his time at Oregon. At Miami, has always had at least a top 14 recruiting class under him. And he's big on the line of scrimmage dominance. And Miami, they're always going to have an elite offensive line under him. He was probably Nick Saban's best offensive line coach at Alabama. And at Miami, Cristobal has also done a great job at plugging holes through the transfer portal. But he hasn't always been a very good game time coach. At Oregon, he struggled with that. And then at Miami, especially the first 2 years, he struggled with that. But I think he really grew as a coach this past season after the second loss to SMU. And I do think Cristobal will eventually get Miami another national championship. If he could get an offense like he had in 2024 and a defense like he had in 2025, they would be unbeatable. But you may wonder why I have a Marcus Freeman ahead of Mario Cristobal when Cristobal beat him this past year. But that's because the 4 years that Cristobal's been at Miami and the 4 years that Freeman's been at Notre Dame, this past year is the only year that Miami had a better or even as good a team as Notre Dame had. But if Miami had beaten Indiana, Cristobal would be a lot higher on this list. And before coming to Miami, he was at Oregon for 4 seasons and had three good years there. And his best was in 2019, where he led them to a 12-2 record and a conference championship win and was a Pac-12 coach of the year. But that'll be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.